What's up, gentlemen?
Hey,
Matt, what's up? That's like
Just lounging, baby.
that's completely different from the drums set and the skull
I'm
cap you
just
had
I'm
on
just
last week.
lounging, baby.
I mean, chilling,
Hey,
chilling.
welcome everybody. We did the countdown clock today to Lunch with Lumbermen, where Matt Beamer from Hampton Lumber Sales, Greg Riley from Sitka, USA, unpack this crazy lumber market. And we talk about it. A lot of stuff since we missed you last week, Matt, with a little couple issues with connectivity, but I think we're glad to have you back right now. Let's talk a little bit about last week and catch up a little bit. Greg, what's your initial thoughts going into this week from what you saw
So,
last week?
you know, I've been, just in this place where, I've been thinking of like, it's the best of times and it's the worst of times. Um, I mean, business is incredibly good across the spectrum, but it's very, very challenging business. I feel like um, everyone's operating at a very high stress level, whether it has to do with the sheer level of business that's going on at yards, whether it has to do with rail issues, whether it has to do with COVID issues, whether it has to do with issues. Um, it's it's a challenging environment for everybody. That having been said, we're going to look back and we're going to go, whoa. I mean, this is probably as good as as good as all segments of the industry have had it.
I think I'm losing Ashley.
We lost Ashley. Ashley, did we lose you?
My fault. Sorry about that. I did the one simple thing. I muted my microphone. So what's your thought on that one, Matt?
Well, I agree with Greg. I think what he's alluding to is the stress which is created by things that are outside of our control, right? Like we don't have any control over how our government wants to control the pandemic, what kind of restrictions they're putting on people. We don't have any control over the labor markets. We don't have any control over whether people want to come to work or not, or even try to get a job. I was talking to a person this morning about the lumber business, and I said, one of the biggest problems in the lumber business is there's just so many jobs that are unfilled. And you're talking like, think about like in terms of like if you needed somebody to work at your reload, if you need a guy to drive a forklift, if you need a guy to come sharpen your saw blades at the sawmill, if you need a trucker, if you need the mechanic that works on trucks, if you need yard guys that like to do the kind of basic stuff that we did when we were 16, 17 years old and we got our job at the lumber yard, just pulling sticks and stuff. So you can't find labor, and that's out of our control completely. And it's having a real effect on the flow of material from the producers to the end users. And then on top of that, these really high prices, they limit the amount of speculation that people are willing to do. So that keeps the prices kind of high and volatile also, because there's no slack in the chain. I always look at markets, where's the lumber, right? And right now the lumber is still at the sawmill. Even though it's sold, there's a lot of mills in Canada that have stuff that was sold back in December or even early January that hasn't shipped yet. They'd love to invoice it. They can't ship it. And it's not because they don't want to or they are trying to outsmart us. They just literally can't ship it. And it's got to be frustrating for the producers. It's equally frustrating for the distributors and the retailers, right? So everybody's frustrated because it's hard to get material. At the same time, there's a big pull on consumption. So we're going into springtime. This is typically the time of year where guys start ramping up a little bit of extra inventory anyhow. We've had a fairly mild winter. We finally got some winter weather here recently that sort of, slowed things down a little bit. Thank goodness. I think we all need a breather, right? I'm looking forward to spring break next month. Yeah.
I had an interesting call yesterday, Ash. One of my good customers does multifamily business. Said that his customer had said, "Hey, I see that the futures market is $800, and I was wondering how that's going to impact the price of my lumber." And I mean, after a chuckle, I said, "Zero impact." Um, the price of lumber today is not going to be impacted by that significantly. But we went through that conversation, and it just it goes to show you where people's heads are at. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean,
The way I frame
that haven't
that,
been said. That haven't been said. We were looking in August and September, and futures were carrying 150 and $200 premiums, and Matt's point was at that time was, hey, this is telling me I should be buying lumber, and if you go by the old axiom, buy what's cheap and sell what's expensive, you know you you sold the futures at that time. That did create some pain and suffering as the market moved up $1,000, but
the way I framed it internally, Ashley, was the futures market being $100 premium or $200 premium was good for us, as sellers, because it allowed us to do some basis trades that were profitable and gave us a real reason to go out and buy lumber and turn that into cash. And then when it went to $100, $200 discount, it's just the opposite. A great way for our customers to buy lumber cheaper. The board's giving you a big discount if you're willing to wait until April to get the lumber. You just look at your April needs on a typical year, and let's say you buy 20 cars a year for your yards in an average April. We'll buy 10 of them in the futures market. Lay off some of your. You're going to need the material. You might as well buy some of it. So we've been making that argument to our customers here for the last 4 or 5 days. And I'm pleased to see that the industry is starting to figure that out and actually buy the big discount back up. So we'll see how it works out. I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine.
Yes, I can hear everybody. Yes. Well,
he's back. He's back.
Craig, was it like 7 a.m. over there? You become like a night owl, like basically stay up all night and then sleep during the day.
8:15. Very civilized. Very civilized. I've already had 2 Zoom calls. Two Zoom calls. Nothing like firing up a Zoom call at 5 a.m.
So it's your 2 hours.
So Matt, what do you? I mean, I guess like you and I to do this. I mean, like, what do you think here? What do you think?
I've been bullish. I've been bullish the whole year, since August basically. And so I just think we just keep buying the dip. So if the dip is the futures board going down $400, I want to buy that. If the mills come at me with $100 or $200 cheaper wood than I was just paying 2 weeks ago, I want to buy that. Right. I mean, my business is so busy right now. I can't build inventory. I looked at my unsold inventory report this morning. I have nothing. I'm on fumes, and I have the next 2 to 3 weeks worth of inbound shipments already pre-sold.
Oh,
So I won't be adding inventory in February, right? The soonest I could actually see my inventory numbers go up would be a month from now. Well, that's a long time in lumber, you know. I'm not
yeah.
going to
Well, I
solve
mean,
anybody's
one of the
immediate
things that
need.
I find, I can, most everything that I'm quoting in truckload is, end of February, and in some cases, I'm quoting some items now for early March, because by the time I factor in that my existing order file, it's going to take me 3 weeks to ship it, and then new inbound stuff is taking longer to get in.
Right.
And then I have to figure, hey, something's on the ground, it gets released. It's, there's some lanes that move fairly quickly, but there's a lot of lanes it's 2 to 3 weeks to get a truck, even if I'm paying 50 to 100% over what I used to pay.
Yeah, I think I'll start being a little bit more cautious about how I'm buying and selling lumber here as we go forward. When I start to see inventories rise a little bit, and when I see the flow of materials start to free up, and when maybe interest rates will have some kind of effect on demand here in the future. But right now, it's full steam ahead. I can't get enough lumber in the field to satisfy everybody. Period. I just can't.
There we go.
And
How's that? How's that, Jim?
Hey,
not to solve
we've got
itself quickly.
a new setup.
Yeah, sorry, that works. Now you should be able to hear me okay.
I don't know why, but you look a lot better from that angle.
Yeah.
Maybe
That's a
stay
much
there.
better look for you. I mean,
Yeah.
My camera, I got the handsome.
we need to
Mike's got
upgrade you.
Mike put on the new
You got a
handsome filter, the handsome filter on his camera.
Yeah, no, Matt. I mean, I cannot believe I've been trying to be conservative in projecting, what I can do for customers for 2 months, and even with that, it is a real struggle. Maybe I'm 70 or 80%, doing just fine, but that other 20% ends up being a real. Hey, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It's free till 9:00.
Okay, great. Thanks. I'm getting kicked out of here. Hang on a second. Let me.
We got a lot of moving around.
I got to take it in the phone booth.
Am I going to be the only man with a set of cojones that can just handle his own business today on this call? It's what it seems like. Holy cow!
No, you're going to move your drum set pretty soon.
No, man, I'm just glad I get a chance to play that again for like since June, since we moved into this house. I haven't been able to play it, so. Dude, it's fun if you can play an instrument. I don't care if it's piano, drums, guitar, whatever, singing. If you have any musical ability and you can't do that for 6 months or a year or two, it's frustrating. It's sort of like you, Ashley, when you get fat and you want to start losing weight, you go back in the gym. You feel good, right? You kind of crave that exercise. You're excited about losing weight and getting strong again. Well, that's the same feeling that when you don't play your drums for 6 months and then you get to sit down on your drum set and like, oh yeah, this is fun. I forgot how much fun. You only need to do it for 10 or 15 minutes, just good stress relief, right?
Exactly. It just one segment that watches a lot of this, and all through the whole multifamily business chain, right? They watch a lot of these shows, both the multifamily providers. Shoot, Greg, Matt, you see some of the calls we get from the people that never bought lumber multifamily to the people that now buy it, right? What's your feeling on the multifamily? Because one thing we've seen the last week, I had a bunch of 3/4 TNG on here that all got sold to multifamily jobs, and some of this stuff isn't coming in until the third week. It won't ship until the third week of March, not February, March, which to me it's like, and we moved 20 trucks of this stuff and they were fine with the shipment, and I think are high numbers, but I guess that tells me that a lot of this business is still sold in the pipeline and is fluid. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I think panels are a real problem in this country. OSB, what's happened with OSB in the last month has that trickle over effect into plywood. And when we think lumber's tough, panels are even tougher. I would not want to be a yard or a company in need of panels right now in America, because there's no quick answers, and it's even worse than lumber. I mean, lumber you can still buy, you just got to pay for it. It's
Right.
hard
Well,
to find.
that explains why so many new buyers are coming on and buying OSB and plywood for prompt for us, because we're moving it all over. That's some of our biggest sales days have been on plywood, OSB, Brazilian plywood. When you got that listed for prompt, it's amazing how far. And I don't want to beat this issue up, but we're shipping stuff 1,500 miles on OSB past 30 distribution yards into right by other lumber mills. I mean, we shipped OSB from Idaho to Georgia. You know how many Southeast mills it passed?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things with that that highlights the level of dysfunction in the distribution channel. It also is highlighted because that's a market that's tightly controlled by not a large number of producers.
You're not supposed to say that.
One of the advantages of lumber is it's still, even with the level of consolidation that we've had, pretty fragmented when you think of all of the different regions, all of the different producers. There's lots of flexibility. I mean, one of the things that these price movements have caused is lots of species switching. There's a lot of people that use species that they never used before because, just because they didn't, and out of necessity, they've made a change, and now they're open to that.
Right.
Judy brought up a good question here. Said, Matt, do you think panels are all contracted with mills for 2022? That's a great question, Judy. One thing I'm seeing is mills doing less contract and panel mills wanting to get more of that premium spot market. Does that make sense? Because the more stuff is contracted, it looks to me, the slower it moves up, right? Look at that move we made in the first quarter this year on panels. You had a $300 to $400 premium on pricing, spot versus contract, right? All of a sudden, you come to now, mills are trying to take advantage of that spot market, limiting contracts. Does that make sense? Maybe I'm off on that. That's just what I've observed.
I mean, I think a lot of customers have wanted to increase their contractual obligations going into 2022 because of what happened last year and the year before. And that was also a result of consolidation in the customer segment, right? So when somebody like USLBM or BFS buys another series of lumber yards, they might inherit some extra responsibilities that they need a little help from producers to cover this extra buying responsibilities without having to hire 10 new guys to buy all this new lumber, right? So it's I think it comes from the field that there's been a desire to have sort of a locked in supply channel with your producers, both on panels and lumber going into 2022. So yeah, I would think that there's more contracts this year than last year, and then last year was more than the previous year. But I mean, it doesn't really matter if you can't get the product from the mill to the region where it's needed. That's the problem, and that's the real problem with panels right now is transportation, and it's a secret hidden problem in spruce. I mean, there's a lot of lumber in BC and Alberta that hasn't shipped, that needs to ship, right? That people need the lumber. That's why I remain
So Matt, I mean, and this is the thing I've been trying to put my finger on is, because of the issues with shipments, whether it's from BC or any place else, how much double and triple buying do you think there's been done? And the only reason I bring this up is I had a conversation with a customer yesterday. He said, "Hey, I've got this, it's big company, multiple yards, and I've got a yard. It's been out of stock for a week and a half on this item. I have 7 truckloads." He sells 2 trucks a month. "I have 7 truckloads on order. As far back as, one was due in early January. Apparently, I was supposed to ship 2 this week. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. Out of my control. That's the other thing is now out of Eastern Canada, CN, with all the weather they've had there, stuff that was taking a week, 10 days is now 2-3 weeks.
Right.
Super, super frustrating. But to my point is, 2 trucks a month, he has 7 on order and none in his yard. At what point in time will he have 3 months worth of inventory?
That's a great question. And as soon as you find out when that happens, it'd probably be time to start taking shorts again, right? I mean, you might want to like liquidate your inventory and just start selling the board and, selling cash like you own it, but you don't really, I mean, I'm just talking out loud here, but right now the inventory is not in the customer's yard.
Correct.
And that's what's driving these surges in pricing. And
Right.
when that changes, then we'll be done with this cycle and we'll start a new cycle, right?
So what do you think? I mean, futures peaked 2 weeks ago, fell $400 in 2 weeks, which was about 30%.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? Where's it going next?
Back up. I mean, I just see a yo-yo. We're talking. This show's about volatility, right? And we're talking about all the ingredients that are creating volatility. And literally, that was the title of our show today. Was let's discuss volatility. Well, why do we have volatility? Well, we don't have any lumber moving in the right ways, in the right speed, to the right people at the right time. That's a big problem. We don't have enough labor out there to solve these problems. We don't have enough product, like, I guess what I call slack in the chain. So that would be extra wood sitting at a distribution yard, extra wood that a wholesale company owns that they're willing to trade, extra wood that the retailer bought that's in his yard. There's no extra wood laying around anywhere. And if you do find it, then it's a matter of getting it shipped in a reasonable amount of time. I used to have no problem, Greg, if you were my customer and you called me this morning and said, I need a truck of 2x16s and I need it tomorrow. I'd say, let me make one phone call. I'll verify I can get the truck there tomorrow and I'll call you right back. Now it's like,
I was 24, 48 hours up and down the East Coast.
I'm lucky, right? Like, I don't even try to get it there next day. I just say, no, it's not going to happen. You need to plan a week out. If I get it there in a week, be happy, right? A lot of this stuff is taking 2 weeks. We have truckers that just don't show up. We have truckers that just, I don't even know where these guys, what planet they crawled out of. It's like, how could you be a trucker? You don't even call. You don't even show up. It's like, come on, man. I don't need this headache. It's ridiculous.
Matt, it's funny. Greg and I will sometimes talk on the weekend as you and I do, and I'll be frustrated because we're busting our butts to get trucks out, and we'll be like, yeah, this truck driver just didn't show up. And Greg will be like, well, I got to make appointments now at reloads that are a week out.
Yep.
And then, so you're making the appointment a week out. Now you got to hope that guy's going to show up a week out for that appointment when you can't even get him. It's
we operate like the airlines. We overbook. Hey, we got 8 slots. Let's book 10, 12 trucks.
Yeah. Hey, let me say this. I've been shipping a lot of trucks in the Texas market since like 2007. Okay. So I've got 15 years of really good experience. I know all the truckers. I know all the tricks. And I've never found a harder environment to book freight on than I am this week. Okay. So we were cruising right along through like Christmas and early part of January. Well, something happened in the back half of January where all of a sudden I can't find trucks and now I'm paying twice as much to get trucks moved that I've historically had to pay. It's getting hard even for us, and we're good at it, right? Yeah. I mean, we're really good at it. This is not something we guess at. We know everything about trucking in Texas, and we're struggling right now to keep up with it.
No doubt. Question, Greg, what is that record over your shoulder there?
So this is brother is he you want to hear a classic song, fire up your Spotify, Somewhere Over the Rainbow by Brother Is, and you'll be mesmerized.
So is this your stereo listening room that you've got there with the soundproof panels on it, or are you playing? You got a drum set back there somewhere, Greg?
No, I don't, but I wish I did. No, No, I'm in the phone booth, man. I'm in the phone booth.
Nice.
Gotcha.
All right, guys. Hey, I'm gonna roll.
Okay.
Cheers.
Yep, sorry
we'll
about
do it again next week.
the tech difficulties, but we made it work, guys. I appreciate it as always. Like I said, Matt Beamer, Hampton Lumber Sales, called Matt. If you got any interest in what he's talking about, same with Gregg at Sitka, DM me, whatever you want to do. Make sure you sign up on our LinkedIn and our YouTube live so you can. So last week we had 100 people, 50 and 50 on YouTube and LinkedIn, and then a unbelievable chunk of like 1,000 people watched it afterwards during the week.
I mean, I like the guy that came in and looking, like say, hey, I want to make sure I get, get in before it's a pay-per-view. I love that. I'm thinking that, we will have an issue with getting advertisers though, because Matt and I can go off the rails pretty easily.
Well, you just got to get different advertisers. Like,
hey, man, I own an advertising company, Greg. Don't worry about that. Just leave it to me. I'll take care of all the advertising.
It's awesome. We should do that, man. I love it. All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Yep.